did not know that.
In snippets from books from travelers and explorers through the regions of Africa in the pre-colonial period.
It was the universal belief, as well as their wish, that men would live always, and that death was entirely the result of witchcraft or medicine imparted by some malignant hand, or of some casualty or want of food.
Plenty of people died. If you got cancer, stage something cancer, and instead of going to the hospital to get chemotherapy, which is, I guess, can kill you too.
Yeah,
that can kill you too. But they can do that. That's on the books. His shit ain't on the books.
I was under the impression that he did, but then when I think about it, it was just him saying it. So,
also, Dr. Sebi didn't go up to the Supreme Court, which he said he went to the New York City or the New York Supreme Court. So,
yeah,
I have known instances where the domestics of a principal man had been murdered in cold blood just because it was suspected that they may have had something to do with their master's sickness.
Okay, that was very prevalent in all throughout the world. If you were a prominent person, you had slaves, especially in Rome. If one of the slaves escaped, all the slaves, like say I'm a Roman fucking Congress aristocrat or senator, and I got 300 slaves. If one of my slaves escapes, all of them will put to death, and I'm giving more slaves to replace them. So that's to make it so that if you're a slave, you're gonna make sure that none of the other slaves try to escape. So it puts the onus on the slaves to police each other.
So it's best to have family member slaves that care about each other.
That's a good point. But it's also, wouldn't you want to leave one or two alive to tell the story? To the
exactly. At least one or two, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The Romans were very brutal, though. They were very brutal.
Or just leave them hanging on the tree, I guess.
Yeah, but but back in those days, you gotta understand, like the olden times was very brutal. It was very brutal. Life was short, and it was dark, and it was cruel. And you were born. Your mom didn't have any fucking painkillers and shit. You didn't have any painkillers. Like, you just lived your life, and if your teeth grew in, top teeth grew in before your bottom teeth, you didn't even know because you're dead.
And wrap the baby and make the baby comfortable, and then talk to the mother and talk to the father, and then execute the baby.
So it's like, it just was a brutal, cruel world, and a lot of people, modern people, we don't take it, we don't appreciate the world that we live in. Let me play this one.
President Trump has used his Twitter account to share inflammatory videos which were posted online by the deputy leader of the far-right group Briton First.
The tweets from the deputy leader of Britain First, Jada Franson, showed what she said was Muslims pushing a teenage boy off a roof.
Hold on, but whatever wars that were done in the name of Islam and Christianity, you think these people weren't warring? These people had wars too.
Oh, for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, so like
they're killing each other.
So wars is part of human nature. The wars that came out about Christianity and Islam, these people were having wars and they were doing this shit.
What a fear-mongering f***. He retweeted deliberately misleading videos from a hate group. All Muslims are terrorists.
So yeah, man, it's they believe they were very superstitious people, like all people in the world were at that time. That's why I say the religions, the major religions, if anything they did was they saved a bunch of lives, man. You can say whatever you want about Christianity and shit like this and Islam, but they saved a lot of lives, man. For whatever damage they did.
Maybe just not in the beginning.
They're the biggest threat to America. No, they're not. And no, they're not. More Americans died choking on food than from terrorism.
At the different towns and villages through which we passed, they brought to us all the sick to be cured. Many came for preventatives against apprehended or barely possible calamities. And in anticipation of the imaginable ills of life, resorted to us in full hope and confidence of our being able to ward them off. The women were particularly fanciful in these matters, and were frequently importunate to receive medicines that would preserve the affections of their gallants, ensure them husbands, or, what was highly criminal, effect the death of some favoured rival.
And then execute the baby.
The traveller cannot practice pity. He is ever in the dilemma of maltreating or being maltreated. Were he to deal civilly and liberally with this people, he would starve. It is vain to offer a price for even the necessities of life. It would certainly be refused, because more is wanted, and so on beyond the bounds of possibility.
They're the biggest threat to America. No, they're not. And no, they're not.
At the different towns and villages through which we passed, they brought to us all the sick to be cured. Nor was it the sick alone who sought advice, but men and women of all descriptions. The former for some remedy against impotency, and the latter to remove sterility. The Wagogo are importunate beggars, who specify their long list of wants without stint or shame. Their principal demand is tobacco, which does not grow in the land, and they resemble the Somali, who never sight a stranger without stretching out the hand for bori. The men are idle and debauched, spending their days in unbroken revelry and drunkenness, while the girls and women hoe the fields and the boys tend the flocks and the herds.
Okay, so that was very common too. The men in Africa didn't really do the work to sustain the villages. That's very common throughout, even not just this book, but throughout the things I've read. The women did the lion's share of work, and like I said, the young boys.
Hey, you ever seen how lions operate in nature?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask, have you ever heard of the cargo cults? The ones that they think that the gods are giving them packages when it's really like the UK government.
I'm very clear that retweeting from Britain First was the wrong thing to do.
Donald Trump has now responded on Twitter telling Theresa May, "Don't focus on me, focus on the destructive radical Islamic terrorism that is taking place within the United Kingdom. We are doing just fine." However, he'd linked this message to a Mrs. Theresa May from Bognor.
They're 7 times more likely to be killed by a lawnmower. I mean, Christ, more Americans die from accidents in bathtubs than from attacks by terrorists. If bathrooms kill more Americans than ISIS, why isn't he tweeting this?
Boy, you should know what you're falling for. Bring me to your daddy. Ah! Dare you leave me?
Oh, like care packages they just drop off with a parachute?
Yeah, they literally worship the dude who just died. Like, that was like their god. Yeah, they're called cargo cults. They're like some, I don't know, island, African, whatever. If you just look up cargo cults, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Theresa May dreams of being that popular. Don't focus on me, focus on the destructive radical Islamic terrorism that is taking place within the United Kingdom. The clues were there.
Well, that is not the law. You don't know that?
I did not know that.
We may be divided over Brexit, or when to put milk into a cup of tea, or which one's Anthem, which one's Dead, but one thing that brings us together is not tolerating racist bigots like you.
If you wanna